Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Superman and Lois Season 2, Episode 1. So, in all honesty, for this episode, it feels like this episode gave me a lot of nothing. It felt like there were so many, relationship problems in this episode that just had to fill time. And, there's some potential stuff in this episode that was like, ooh, this might be interesting in future episodes to kind of backfire or become the villain or blah, 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 whatever. So, I have to say that there is potential for this episode, but I was so bored. I was just so, how many people are going to have some kind of relationship problem, whether it's to be between lovers or between just people who are to have kind of problems with how things are to be set up between them. And so really it became that kind of episode where everybody just has to deal with their hard struggles and hard times. And why can't you just talk to me? Sure, yeah. If we didn't have enough of this towards the end of season 1, now we just have to continue to have more of this stuff. That is to just... Man, I was thinking that we were going to have some kind of Clark and Jordan team up. Could we just have, both of them just go on some side missions or something like that? Kind of give us something fun to do? Good grief. We can still see in this season that Jordan still has some power left. But unfortunately, he's probably not going to have this power forever, supposedly. And I'm still just pining away for Jonathan to have powers in this show, just so we can have 2 superpowered sons. But, I feel like there's so much focusing on the wrong things for Jonathan in this show, to where it's it doesn't really feel like anybody in this episode is really getting their hands dirty whatsoever, and everybody is just oh no, we have to have some kind of relationship thing for them to... So I'm so nobody is even nobody is going to even seem like they're going to get hurt at some part of this episode. Man, are they just protecting their leads for this show, and how many CGI'd things they have to kind of approach into this one. And and how and plus also in this episode we have so many goofy looking visuals that I'm what is somebody trying to put in their portfolio that hey guys, look at this artsy looking thing that I did for this episode. But because we're having Superman, who is having some weird goofy head problems in this episode, where I'm what the is going on with this guy? What's going on with Superman? Are we gonna is he gonna go off and ask somebody hey man, my head is ringing, I don't know what's going on in here, but there's something going on with my head. But he says nothing. He he just, I guess, shrugs it off. And so I'm trying to what's going on here? Just kind of confused. What's going on with the Superman? And plus, what the heck is going on with that? There was so much stuff that they just stretched to the heavens in this one. And I can't wait for another morality talk that kind of just goes really nowhere. Hey guys, I'm gonna sit down and just tell you that if you love somebody and you're old enough and you feel like you have to show your expression. What the is this? What am I, 10 and I'm having to watch this show? When a man loves a woman, I'm what the is this? shouldn't you know what your target audience is of this show? And it's not like a 10-year-old? Like, what a, like, I'm sorry, but, like, you're not reaching all of your target audience in this show. You're just kind of reaching a certain weird age range of people that are like, oh, or specific people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't think Superman and Lois fans are all to have one relationships. That could be a possibility that nobody has that, or also nobody wants to like hear about a number of people who are all having relationships. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be watching Dawson's Creek anytime soon to just see how like difficult it was for Dewey to get with Suey, and oh no, that's gotta suck. Uh, but that's what this episode is. So that's what I'm going to say for this one. Uh, Superman is doing some CGI'd stuff in this episode, which people could possibly be like, "Ooh, this could win me over." But just Superman is not fighting anybody in this episode besides his relationship with Lois. That's the only thing that he's fighting and grappling with. Oh no, not the relationship struggles. Let's go into that double five to otherwise just spoil this episode. Cause it's about that time to go into spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this episode. So let's go into it. So, spoilers. Since now we're in spoilers, if anyone, I'm going to talk about the very end of this episode, and the very first thing that I want to ask everybody, what do you think that metal arm is coming out of that that rock there? Like, kind of curious. Like, is that going to possibly be wouldn't that be cool if it was Metallo? Like a weird variation of Metallo somehow? I don't know. That'd be weird. That'd be a stretch. But like, what would it be alternatively? Like, would it be a Brainiac? Brainiac would be interesting. Um, I don't know why he'd be so thoroughly, thickly buried in the rubble there. They'd probably have to go and explain that, but maybe it was something that, because I don't know, I didn't get the best version of this either. So maybe it's obviously this character, like it said so and so, but I don't know, I wasn't be able to see all that well. So it's like, what was the last finishing up thing that kind of popped out there? But now let's pull all the way back. So in the very early beginning of this episode, we of course have it where Clark is going on, and we have we have Clark and all the family all dealing with Natalie, who is to show up, and she's like, "Hey guys, I'm here," and oh, like mom, like oh yeah, like, and John Henry Irons is telling Natalie here that, like, well, that's not your mother. Like, you have to know that this is a alternative Earth, and that everyone that you thought you know is to not know you, because you don't exist on this Earth. So, we have John Henry Irons consistently convincing Natalie that everybody that she was to be best friends with on alternate Earth is either all dead or don't know who she is. And so don't try to reconvince anybody of who they are here, because they aren't that person. So whoever was your best buddy, pal, whichever, they won't be that here. And so Natalie is to go off to school because we now queue up 3 months later, because all that kind of little opening scene was to just have Lois Lane dealing with the fact that now Natalie is here, and we have it to where like she is to kind of be mortified that Natalie's here because now she's forced to actually deal with Natalie being on this earth. And she's confronted by it, but she doesn't know how to handle it. Lois doesn't. And neither does Natalie, it seems. So, because Natalie is to go to school, and John Henry Irons is kind of beating it into Natalie's head that all of her friends are not all her friends here. And that Natalie's like, yeah, I get it. Like this is a different world where all of my friends are now dead, and all these people should be dead now, and I'm going to go and tell them that that all these people should be dead because a war broke out on alternate Earth, blah 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 blah. So Natalie goes, and John is telling her that like, hey, I'll wait for you, and she's like, great, like I can't wait to just. Like, Natalie is going to have no life besides just her and her dad, man. That's going to be exciting. I'm sure John wants her to do nothing but just go to school and then just come back into the RV. Because exciting. So, Natalie after school is just to go on a walk. And so John is now like, well, where could she be? Where is this? And we have John Henry Irons who's thinking it's, well, maybe she's going to this certain place. And the device that John Henry Irons has, it's like, well, that place is being repaired right now. And so he's like, well, where could she go? Where could she? And so Natalie goes and walks right in front of John Henry Irons because she was there the whole time. She was there, and he just couldn't bother. She just starts to walk, and John runs out. He's like, hey, where have you been? She's like, I just went on a walk. Give me a freaking break. Because everyone on my other planet, like, everything has been taken away from me, and I'm still having to process that, deal with that. Even though she had 3 months just marinate on that, that isn't good enough. Still. Because she can't even talk to the one person that she really wants to talk to, her own mother. So now that we got that great story and have to deal with that whole garbagook, let's go on and let's go to 3 months later, and so the Kent family. So we have Clark who goes on here and is to ask Lois, because it seems that Lois is to be looking for new reporters to assist, of course, her and Christy here. It's been a while since I've said some of these names. And so, of course, we have it where Clark is kind of comparing to when Perry White was to hire him, and just say, it's like, well, maybe you don't need much of experience for certain people. Maybe you just need an eager person with a kind of keen sense for things. And so Lois is like, yeah, Clark, yeah. Like, if anything, like, I'm just going to go right to you to just know exactly for who I should hire next. Because technically, like, Clark should go and do some, like, side reporting. Like, might as well. Like, it's not like he has anything, like, really pressing to do besides run a farm and coach his sons and be Superman any other time, right? So we have at one point where we have Jordan, and I guess Jordan is to try to find the perfect outfit. He's just slamming, and he's just wanting to, like, yeah, this outfit has to be the greatest outfit I'm going to put on today. Because we have Jordan who is to go off and talk to Sarah. Because Sarah, I guess, had went to some camp of some sort. Not quite sure. And I'm kind of like questioning what had gone on with Sarah during this camp, because she's weirdly happy And I'm thinking something's horribly going to go awry here, where Sarah all of a sudden is going to have this story to just plop down to Jordan, and Jordan is just going to be like, oh my god. Because I have a feeling that Sarah had been doing some activities, so many activities at camp, that all of a sudden we're just going to find out that Sarah might have met somebody, might have met somebody else. Maybe there's going to be a love triangle going on all of a sudden. So I just have that weird, goofy feeling that we're going to have more and more relationship to go into the show, so I can complain about it even more. So all of a sudden, Jordan is to be, I guess he bathed in cologne, and then he got another bottle and was like, wait a minute, just one more douse. Because of course we have Superman, who of course has super smelling, and so he's like, whoa, and Jonathan's like, what's going on? And Clark's just like, well, you're gonna smell it, buddy. All of a sudden Jordan comes in the room and they're like, whoa, who let the perfume out, buddy? And Jordan's like, did you spray yourself down with the whole can? What's going on there, buddy? Like, hey, maybe he has BO. Give him a break. Maybe he just went to the gym and just was pumping iron, and maybe he has some kind of sweat going on. Maybe, I don't know. Like, give him a break. I'm sure, like, Sarah didn't complain about it, even though she's secretly deep down, it's like, yeah, I really want to break up with this guy because of the whole cologne biz. You know what I'm saying? So Jordan is to go on, and I guess probably maybe all those candles that he had was scented. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what they're getting a big fat whiff of, is a billion scented candles. So we have also Clark is asking Lois about a certain kind of wine that Lana is to like. And I'm like, Clark, why are you trying to win over Lana weirdly? Are you gonna all of a sudden just be like since I'm having so many troubles with Lois, I'm gonna just start slipping accidentally into Lana? And like we're all of a sudden just gonna be at like the same point in our relationships, and like maybe all of a sudden like one thing leads to another, and just more controversy happens into the show, and things could happen. Look at the first season. We had it to where like Clark was almost going to propose to Lana, but then all of a sudden he comes back to see that her horse is in some other person's stable. Metaphors. So I am just creating so many things for this show to do because this episode was giving me nothing. So we go on, and we of course have Jordan, who is to make it to the Cushing's house. And so all of a sudden we have Jordan, who's kind of making his way up, and we have it where it seems that Kyle is to notice that Jordan was coming, and Sarah goes on and to open up her door, and Jordan's like, hey, like, I'm sorry I didn't text you beforehand, but I just really wanted to see you. Like, I've missed you so much so. And Sarah couldn't have given a less, in all honesty. To where eventually later, Sarah and Kyle have this kind of heart-to-heart moment, which I'm like, oh, that's so nice, because we had, like, Sarah and Kyle kind of having some problems before where it just seemed like Kyle was just some kind of deadbeat dad, in all honesty. But it seems like we have them kind of have a point where Kyle is to finally mentor his daughter. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's nice. Great. What the is Alana doing now? Because Alana used to just do that, and now, like, she's got nothing. Like, she's just so wrapped up in this whole Daniel Hart situation, even though clearly she's probably a better politician than this guy could be. obviously, and I think it's probably going to head into that direction soon. So, because we go on and we have Lana, who is to have this package of these mugs and these shirts that all have, of course, Daniel Hart's name on it. Like, yeah, he's going to become a really good politician for what? I don't remember, but politician nonetheless. So, we have the Cushings who's setting up for this party to candidate for this guy, Daniel Hart. And so we have it to where Sarah is to go on and tell Jordan to come up with a reason to not really see him. Just like, oh, yeah, well, like, we have this whole, like, Daniel Hart situation going on. And then all of a sudden, Jordan is like, well, could we meet by the like pond in an hour from now? So, like, I'm not going to talk about the whole Daniel Hart situation. Like, I'm going to just fast track through that. Excuse me. We have at one point, like, Clark is to go and meet with Kyle, and we have it to where kind of Kyle is getting all this shrimp together, and it seems like Kyle is just be kind of ticked that Lana is spending so much time with Daniel Hart, kind of like saying all the right things to promote this guy who can't even speak for himself. This guy isn't going to last very long, in all honesty. So, but since Lana has to spend so much time with this guy, Kyle is to get rubbed the wrong way, and then both Clark and Lana are kind of dealing with the fact that both of their relationships are not going all that well. Especially when Clark is to ask Lois, it's like, well, hey, like, what's wrong? Like, talk this out. Like at least try to go on and maybe call Natalie and try to just like comfort her with a familiar voice, so that way maybe she can like feel a little bit better that she's not alone in this world, kind of thing. To where eventually Lois goes out of her way to then go, excuse me, go on, and Lois is to go and seek Natalie out herself and just be like, well, hey, like we should uh like see more of one another, so much so that like how about you and your dad like come with us and just kind of like live with us for a while, like since you guys like obviously like you guys don't have a connection to this town, like come on, like. So speaking of connection, so we have Jordan that is to go and be at this pond and is to heat vision all of these candles, to light all these candles, and Jordan is to do this big romantic gesture, and Sarah is to treat this gesture with like, you know what, I'm feeling a little crappy, I'm feeling a little sick, like how about I just kind of like leave here because like I'm just being very distant away from you, Jordan. And then Jordan is like, God dang it, I like, what do I gotta do? So Sarah goes on and talks to her dad, and it seems that her dad is telling her, it's like, well, hey, like, just be honest about your relationship, and like, it'll work out. Maybe you're gonna tell him, maybe you're gonna give him a Dear John letter telling him that you found somebody else, because I feel like that's what's going on here. Because they need to break these two up to eventually probably either one, make them friends, or two, break them up so that way they can get them back together for some goofy reason. Maybe Jordan is going to finally reveal to Sarah that he has powers. If he hadn't have done that at some point, which he hadn't. So, but he honestly should. So, because that'll probably really win this girl over, right? So, we, of course, Jonathan. Jonathan is going on and playing football with his assistant coach, Clark. And so it seems that Coach Gaines is to be way overprotective with Jonathan, and he's basically not letting him do one single pass. To the point where all he's doing is all these running drills, and it's like Jonathan's like, "Wow, this is freaking exciting." As well as I would say that this episode is exciting. So Gaines, I actually said that right. Wow, that came out of nowhere. Because I didn't even remember this guy's name. So that's great. I have a photographic memory. No, please don't really just think that, because heaven forbid, right? So we push on here, and so Jonathan is to have this girl Candace, and I'm like, is this the same girl from before? Is this a new girl? I don't remember, because does it matter? No, she's just a woman to probably just Anyways, so Jonathan and Candace are to go on and start to take off their clothes in the house, while Clark is going on to rescue a Korean submarine, a North Korean submarine. And because the submarine is sinking, so Clark is to go on and take this ship is to rise it. But while he's doing that, he's also having some head problems, to the point of him just kind of losing control. And we can consistently see these weird, like freaking visuals that I'm like, okay, like, man, this just looks so much fun to just see this like weird wild visual that we're seeing here. What a waste. So we have Clark eventually dunk into the water, and but all of a sudden he kind of like kind of regains his ability, and so he grabs this sub literally, and like and raises it to just kind of drop uh, to where they can all be saved. And so they're like, yeah, Superman saved us. So we go on, and we, of course, have we have Superman go off to meet this new Sam Lane character who's called Anderson. Uh, really interesting, the pick that they have here. I'm like, wait a minute, I just saw this guy in Yellowstone. So, like, is he doing double duty? That'll be great. Like, hey man, like, more the merrier. Maybe they wrote him off. Well, no, like, I'm sure what happened is that like he's probably doing this on his off season or whatever. I don't know. But hey, the guy who plays Anderson, good. Like he's getting roles. He's getting a bigger role here. So we go on, and we have like Superman and Anderson kind of conflicting here, because of course we do, because this is again an episode about relationships. And so we have it to where Superman is to have Anderson tell him, it's like, well, hey, like, you gave this North Korean sub back to the North Koreans. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And like, Clark or Superman doesn't want to deal with politics. He just wants to go and save people, and that's that. That's all it's ever going to be. So eventually, we have it where we are to have these kind of tremors going on. And so we have it later on where Clark is to realize that there is going to be an earthquake. And so Clark goes on and is to find where the cause of this earthquake is. And it's to be in this cave where we have these two superhero beings who's kind of like pounding away on this rock to rescue these people. And we have Superman who's spotting these two super powered or super suited people is what they end up calling them in IMDb, where they have the Superman crest on them, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I don't want you guys to have that symbol on you because you're not Kryptonian, and like you're not Superman. Like you're not one of my cousins. You're not Connor Kent." You're not, of course, Supergirl. Like you guys can go on and be like Gotham Boy and Gotham Girl. Like that's what I would kind of think that they would have gone here. I would have thought they would have gone with the Batman Rebirth story, where these two characters are to be called like Metropolis Man and Metropolis Maiden or something, and that's what they're going to be called. So that way they can go and supposedly help out Superman here. That's what I would have assumed that this story was going to head, but I guess not. So we have Superman who goes on and talks to Anderson, and it's like, well, hey, like these guys got my logo, and Anderson's just like, well, like that is to be the more like prominent logo that everyone is to know. So it tells people what side that they are on, that they're to help people and whatever. And so we just commandeered your logo because we want everybody to know that these superpower beings are just like basically helping you. And Clark is just like, really? Could have picked another logo. Could add some kind of something here. So we go on and we have Clark coming back because Lois desperately want Clark to come back, and so she ends up purposely like using this device to get him there. And so she ends up finding out, or he ends up finding out that the only reason why he's brought there is not a real emergency. It's just the fact that Jonathan had almost gotten like had some bedroom business, so to speak, with a girl named Candace. And so Lois Lane is like, oh my god, like she found them out. And so we have Clark who's to have to go and have the talk with both Jordan and Jonathan, because now all of a sudden Lois just doesn't trust her sons. Like, oh my god, are they just gonna sneak away and just pop out a kid 9 months from now? It's like, well, what about your technical kid from another world? Are you gonna deal with that, Lois? Yes, good. Go ahead and deal with that. So I don't even want to talk about like this stupid thing that Clark has to do with both Jonathan and Jordan, just sitting them down and like, okay, kids, like, hey, if you when a man and a woman really love one another, they have to show their love by. I'm like, God, I don't even want to hear this. This seems so cringe, and we really have it to where like Clark is like going on and setting these boys down. I'm like, you have to respect your lover, and I'm like, oh my god, Clark, just shut up. I don't need to hear this. I don't think these guys need to hear this because they're like, I'm sorry, what makes you think that all of a sudden I'm just gonna like be this horrible person? Because man, do you guys have like made it absolutely sure by like every tiny little minute like scrupulous, like if I don't tell you every little bit of something that you have to just like figure it out, or like, no, you have to tell me, like, how did this happen, what, like you have to tell me what's going on. Because when Jordan comes back home, Lois is like, well, how did it go with you and Sarah? And he's like, yeah, it didn't go. And she like keeps probing him, like, no, like tell me, like how did it go? And Jordan's like, and so she like won't let it go. I'm like, man, you guys have to just stretch some more time now, don't you? So we now finally have it to where like we just have Lois that thinks that her sons are just gonna like pop out babies like it's no tomorrow here in the show. So we have Clark just like going and finally like talking to Lois like, no, we have to talk. Like we have to like you are like immediately like the whole thing with her not letting go about what is going on with Jordan. Like now, like Clark is just like, okay, now, like tell me, like there's something wrong with you, and you won't open up about this, so you're gonna have to open it up now. You're gonna have to talk now. So Lois is to open up about how like that still could technically be her daughter, and like she just kind of like treated her the way that she treated her as just this uh as just a person that just walked away from her, and she's kind of rethinking in her head of how Natalie could have seen that, or how Natalie could have wanted that kind of just embrace or whatever, and like Natalie couldn't get that because they don't realize how bad their world really was. Maybe at some point, maybe they'll go to that world and realize how bad it really is there, and they'll come and they'll realize that like, yeah, like we should have like we should have treated you guys way better than we did. So we go on and we have Lois who's like hooing and awing of the fact that she like uh she didn't she didn't treat Natalie the way that she wanted her to be, like thinking back of it, the way that she should have really been treated here. And so Clark is just like, well, so you made a bad first impression. So here's the thing about life, it gives you second chances every single day. So Lois is to go on and meet up with Natalie and just be like, you know what? Like, I know that you probably like need your mother here. So like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have you come and live with us, and like we're gonna help you guys like really like transition here, because it still feels like these guys haven't still transitioned. Like we still have John Henry Irons that is just in this RV, and he's just shut himself off from the world. Like they need to figure out a way to become a part of this new world, and what better way by inserting them with the Kent family, and just be like, hey, what's yours is mine kind of thing. Like, hey, you guys have saved uh, their lives I don't know how many countless times here, so really we just have it to where really that's to be where the story just kind of fizzles off and ends with kind of Clark kind of hearing something off in the distance, which is to be this hand kind of lodging out of nowhere. Um, One thing also, we had Lois who's going on and talking to Christy, and so Lois's boss is going on and seeing a number of different kind of people, and we had this one guy who I guess was to talk about him figuring out a way to be able to monetize his vlog or his blog or whatever, and that he has a massive following, and he has this weird thing called um, uh, Woat the Goat or something like that, or Woat or Goat or some goofy thing. Um, and so all of a sudden, when Lois was to come in here, like, oh, Woat or Goat, all right, like this guy, like, so this guy walks away, and Lois is saying, it's like, well, yeah, don't hire that guy. Like, freaking that guy is to, like, all that matters for that guy is that he just has a massive following, and there has to be a lot more than just that. There has to be a better candidate out there, and Lois's boss is just like, ah, like we've kind of like scared everybody away at this point because anybody who was good, like Lois, is just consistently just being way too freaking picky. I would love it if John Henry Irons just became that reporter. Might as well give him something to do, and just instead of sifting away in that RV, he might as well just be a reporter. Give him that. Give Natalie something to do. Have them both be reporters. Who cares? The more, the merrier. Just to have this connection here between them, and just kind of like give them something to work with here. We also had uh, both Cushing, Lana, and Kyle Cushing. I believe I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Talking about the merchandising that they are to try to benefit off of, and you end up seeing all these like Superman like toys and shirts and whatever because of that whole situation from season one. All of a sudden, Smallville is going on and trying to say like, oh, this is the place where Superman is to hang his hat right now. Ooh, let's try to make some money off of that whole event. And it's like, well, Lana's like, well, can you really blame them? Like, it makes a lot of sense to just like have them trying to make money off this thing because of how much uh, like damage this town caused, how probably a number of people have lost their jobs and so on and so forth. So it makes a lot of sense technically to try to get every dollar, cent, and dime you can out of this town, because there's probably a number of people because of that Edge situation that had lost their jobs. I think he's not thinking of that. And so it's kind of insensitive to probably think like, well, there's probably not just a money making scheme out of this. There's probably a number of people. It's like, well, hey, I lost my job because of the Morgan Edge situation, and so now I'm just doing this stand out here to make money, but it's to make money because I lost my job. So it'll be interesting to see where the rest of this story goes. But I think I'm going to get out of here so I can kind of just narrowly make it out of here to call this one done. So I'm curious to see where this season is to head, but also, yeah, this one didn't go into the best route of things. Hopefully, I covered everything, but I'm sure there's some minute details that I probably just kind of fast tracked through just to call this one done, because I feel like I had a lot of stuff to just say, like, okay, this is the season premiere episode, and so now, like, having to kind of really go into that. So, with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. One thing I forgot about, and I just thought to bring it up now. Jonathan. Jonathan was to go and do running plays simply because he had broke his arm in a couple spots. So really, the coach was to not take any risk with Jonathan and his arm. So hence why, like, they were going and taking it easy on Jonathan, having it so that Jonathan wasn't going to be throwing anything. And so now Jonathan is just to be left to get just busy with some girl, because that's all he has left to do. So yeah, so I wanted to just kind of cover that. If there's anything that I forgot about, because I'm sure there's a billion things that I did, let me know in the comments below. Then I'll just have a rebuttal for next week and talk about that I forgot about those slight details. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.